A new great white hope for the Democratic Party is apparently being hyped up to run for the open Senate seat come 2026 out of the state of Texas. This guy, James Talarico, a Pete Buttigieg skinwalker, if you've ever seen one, is apparently the bee's knees. Let's see how he operates in an interview setting.
Seats to the U.S. House. How are Democrats planning to respond in fighting back on this legislative effort? Specifically, are you contemplating boycotting the legislature to deny a quorum, as your caucus has done on other issues in the past?
Well, all options are on the table. My colleagues and I are going to use every tool in our toolbox to stop this power grab from going through. I mean, the president is trying to rig the next election. That's what's happening here.
The irony in that statement is not lost on anybody. And in addition to this, also, keep in mind this is all about the 2026 mid-decade, redistricting campaign that the Trump administration is trying to get other states like Texas to do, which you can complain about gerrymandering as a concept. At this point, every side's going to do it, so you might as well if you're Trump. So
he and his allies in D.C. just passed the largest transfer of wealth in American history with their big, beautiful bill, kicking millions of Texans, millions of Americans off their health care to fund.
Okay, that's BS. Are you kidding me?
Tax breaks for billionaires.
Okay, so largest transfer of wealth, tax breaks for billionaires. So keep in mind, Trump is not even cutting taxes on billionaires. He is just keeping the tax rates that have been around for 8 years already in place. So not only is he not cutting them more, but he's also just keeping them in. And, also just keep this in mind. Tax break would imply that the government just owns all your money, and for them to take less of it is them doing you a favor. So this kind of just tells you, whether it be through rhetoric or if he actually means what he says, this is a socialistic frame to really consider this and discussing.
And they know that's unpopular, but they don't care because they have this plan to redraw the political maps here in Texas, to turn our districts into these crazy shapes so that they can guarantee the outcome they want in the next election, regardless of how we all vote. And if this works, if they get away with this power grab, they're never going to have to fear the voters ever again.
You say that boycotting is an option, but you've tried that once before. Democrats have in the state, leaving the state in 2021 over a bill that you allege infringed on voter rights. That effort, though, was ultimately unsuccessful. So what would be successful this time if you were to boycott the state legislature?
So, okay, again, this is a good BS test. So as a politician, you're faced with the reality that you need to obfuscate from.
Well, I disagree because I was a part of that walkout in 2021.
Uh-oh.
And because we did that, because we raised awareness across the country of what was happening with the Republican voter suppression bill, it pressured my Republican colleagues to take the worst parts out of that bill, the provision that would allow them to overturn election results, the ban on Sunday morning voting that affects African-American churches. And so that pressure actually worked to make the bill less harmful. Again, the bill ultimately passed. I wish it hadn't. But in the minority, we can use all of these tools to delay, to kill, or to improve harmful legislation. And I think that's what we're committed to doing this year.
So a problem with one of these or with these presidential wannabes is that they need to emote, okay? People like Bill Clinton, Obama even, Trump, of course, can tap into something and resonate with voters on the basis that they actually are human. Whereas with this guy, you can tell he's formulating every single sentence before he utters it. He's also somebody who is, like, again, the tie's too skinny. Everything's just slightly uncanny valley with people like this. James Talarico, for example, looks like a meld between Pete Buttigieg, the toy man from Superman, and is just otherwise looking like a 12-year-old boy. His nose is a weird shape. His eyes are lopsided, and it's just really strange. He's also graying at the age of 36. And by the way, running for Senate at 36 is just a D-bag thing to do, of course. In addition to that, his experience is as a teacher. So again, like, are you qualified? Also, you look at him. He's been in the state representative, or rather the House of Representatives out of Texas for 7 years, since 2018. So I'm telling you that since he was in his 20s, he's been actually in elected office. So he's somebody who's been aspiring to climb the political ladder, and nobody can tell me otherwise. And I think most people can pick up on that without even knowing what I did to research it.
This unlawful redistricting attempt.
Let's talk about Democrats nationally and the real struggles your party still has in connecting with voters. A new Wall Street Journal poll shows Democrats are underwater by 30 points, with only 33% seeing the party favorably, and that is consistent with other national polls, including here at CNN. So despite President Trump's unpopularity, your party only has a slight 3-point advantage on the generic congressional ballot. So why is your party still failing to connect with so many voters?
Well, and I would say there are probably a lot of Democrats that disapprove of the National Democratic Party, too. You know, I think there is a real need for my party to get outside of its comfort zone, to go into places where we don't typically go and talk to folks that we don't typically talk to.
Okay, I just picked up on this. He talks like Obama. All these people try to rip off Obama. And it's so obvious. And, to be honest, there's a lot of people that rip off Trump's gestures. A lot of young people are like, frankly, folks, they all do that on the right too. But people don't point out when they try to emulate Obama or imitate, and it's pretty pathetic once you pick up on it.
It's why I went on Joe Rogan's podcast. It's why I've been on Fox News. It's why I've been on the Christian Broadcasting Network. We've got to break outside of our bubbles. We've got to meet people where they're.
How bad of a sign is it for the Democrats? And he's too stupid to recognize this, but when you're uttering a sentence like, I'm going out of the zone of Democrats, I even called into a Christian broadcast. Like, you know how out of touch the Democrats have to be to where calling into a Christian network is actually special? What the do you think a Republican would be like, I'm coming out of the conservative zone, yeah, I'm calling into a Baptist preach? No, they wouldn't care because that's just normal. Because Republicans represent that, I guess. At least a lot better than Democrats. This guy's not self-conscious of that despite being a pastor himself. And by the way, he's 36 years old and unmarried. Very strange. And he's not one of these Playboy Hugh Hefner bachelors. No, 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 no.
Because politics at its core is about addition, not subtraction. And I think that's something my party has struggled to do in recent years. We've got to build a big coalition, a big tent. We're not going to agree on every issue, but that coalition is what's necessary to save this American experiment and be able to take power back from the people at the very top that are taking away our health care and rigging the system for themselves and their rich friends.
Hey, Representative, you mentioned Joe Rogan. When you were on his podcast, he urged you to run for president, but there's also a big Senate.
Joe Rogan is such a goddamn imbecile, really. Number one, why are you having this calm man on your show? Number two, you should run for, this is why Joe Rogan is literally, I don't know if he's done an IQ test, but he's got to be the most mid-witted person in the history of the country, man. Yep, he could have a podcast with Trump, be like, man, I love Trump, and then the next day, Bernie Sanders, man, I fucking agree with you. Yeah, take my money, tax me. Oh, this Antichrist wannabe. Oh yeah, awesome, run for president. Idiot. I bet this kid all the time, when he was in 8th grade or whatever, hey, you're so smart, you should run for president. I got that a lot too, but to actually internalize that is pathetic. It's gross.
To run for president, but there's also a big Senate race.
Look how he lightens up. Yeah, you see. You can just read it off of these people, the stench. Okay, the ladder climber, disgraceful. Look at this.
President, but there's also a big Senate race in your state.
That smile, weirdo.
Next year for the seat occupied by Republican John Cornyn. Former Democratic Congressman Colin Allred is running again after losing last cycle. But what about you? How seriously are you considering a run for Senate next year?
I am seriously looking at it, but if I'm being honest with you, my full attention is here at the state capitol during.
Brother, it's one thing to be a politician and use all the rhetorical devices of the generic politician like he's doing now. But what's worse is that you're in your mid-30s, a millennial. You should know after watching Obama growing up that you can be a little more off the cuff, right? And it's just so rehearsed. It's so cheap. I think. What really offends me is that he believes that the people watching CNN actually just take him at face value, and they're like, wow, he does really care about his district. He's totally not trying to run for Senate. And maybe the people actually, people in CNN, they are dumb, okay? Maybe they do fall for it, but I don't.
The special legislative session, I mean, if we allow this power grab to go through, it's going to prevent us from making progress on all the issues we care about, healthcare, education, taxes. These are things that we're going to have to be able to do, and this power grab is stopping us from making that progress. So I'm committed to doing the job that I already have. My constituents here in Central Texas elected me to fight for them at the state capitol. That's what I'm going to do before I start thinking about applying for other jobs.
You just said you gave it thought.
But have you spoken to the Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer about a possible run?
I have not.
Yeah, no. Okay.
No clout. All
right, we'll see what decision you ultimately make. Seriously considering a run for Senate as you're dealing with this issue in Texas. Representative Talarico, thank you so much for taking the time and speaking with me. Really.
Okay, so that was that number one sample. We might be covering this guy going forward. If and when he does declare for the Senate candidacy out of Texas, he'll definitely lose, kind of like Colin Allred. This guy is worse, obviously. This guy's probably definitely in the closet. Pete Buttigieg wannabe. I would say Pete is at least more articulate, higher IQ, looks more normal, despite himself looking pretty damn weird also. Alfred E. Newman, anyone? And then you got the dollar store, I don't know what the fuck this guy is, dollar store Sanjay Gupta. Who the hell hired this guy? He's ugly, hairline receding, very disrespectful, looks like a goblin. Clash of Clans mob. Anyway, Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want more content like this. Comment down below what your thoughts are on this potential Antichrist. Runner-up to Gavin Newsom for Antichrist. We'll see if the Book of Revelation comes to fruition in our lifetimes. Anyways, I'll see y'all on the next one. Adios.